I'm Tricia Tuttle, I'm Festival Director, and it's such a pleasure to be here today to have a conversation with Céline Sciamma. Full disclosure, Céline is my favourite filmmaker, so if I go fangirl on you guys, I know you'll understand, because I think there are probably other people who are in the same position. Céline impossibly just seems to be getting better and better exponentially with every film. It's been a pleasure for the festival to screen her work, from Water Lilies, Tomboy, Girlhood, as I know half of you in the room would make your top 10, and now she's made another film which is part of my eternal top 10. You know, it's really, really wonderful to have her here. Please put your hands together to welcome Céline Sciamma. Don't fall off the front of the stage. That would be a terrible way for us to start. Yeah.
Well, that'll be on YouTube, so.
So we're going to have a chat for about half the time, watch some clips, revisit your work, and then open to the audience for questions. Okay. I want to go in early days. For you, you studied literature. You were a big reader as a kid. At what stage did you start to think film was going to be for you?
Well, I decided to put cinema at the center of my life when I was 12, 13. There's been culture of cinema in my family. We were watching films, we were going to the theater, and I had like a grandmother. I still have my grandmother, actually. She's in the room, hey. No, she's 95, she couldn't make it, but she actually introduced me to the musicals, Fred Astaire, and all the American comedy, Cary Grant, and so the classics. So I had that culture, but at some point I decided to put cinema at the center of my life, just go to the cinema. When I was 13 years old, basically going through the biggest crisis of our lives, you know, teenagehood. And all my life was designed around going to the cinema, like earning money to buy tickets, and I was going to the cinema three times a week. I was a loner, as you can tell. Felt quite less lonely in the theater rooms, and I was lucky enough to have a art house theater in my city with great programmation. So I was just going to see everything they programmed. But still, at that time, I thought. I remember writing in my diaries that, you know, I really wanted to do cinema, but I was like, am I going to have to be an actress? You know, because very few role models at the time. And I thought, I don't think I look good enough. And I'm not sure I want to do this anyway, being an actress. So it took me time to actually feel legitimate to make films, and actually it took me to get into National Film School, to get that legitimacy. So I studied literature for 4 years, began to take cinema class in university, like just one cinema class, analyzing films, and then decided to do more studies. So I studied, you know, I could be an astronaut, but I'm a filmmaker, and went to National Film School, yeah.
Can I take you back to that sort of 13-year-old film goer?
Please don't. No, go.
But so when you went to the cinema, you had an art house cinema, which is amazing, so you probably had a really wide range of films you were seeing. Can you remember a film that really struck you to the core as a person?
The first time, actually, I felt really like, okay, this is gonna be my life, was when I saw Blue by Kieslowski. It was really big at the time, and he had made this trilogy called Blue, White, and Red. And also the protocol of that, of expecting a film from a director. That was the first time. I was very, that was the first kind of shock. And I think that was the first time that I actually went to the cinema by myself. So it's pretty linked, but you know, it's like that. It's not only about the films; it's about also the experience of going to the film. It's about me taking my bike. It's raining. The cinema is it's in my town, but it's like 8 kilometers away, and you go into the theater by yourself, and you pretty much, it felt like the first time I could actually make a decision for myself, you know, in a way. And I got out, and it was raining, and I had this blue raincoat, and I remember like this contagion between the film and life also, because it's also that, you know, it's not only about finding shelter or refuge in the theater room, it's how then it's contagious to your own life. So that was an important moment. And also the first time that I went into an art house theater in Paris, because I live 30 kilometers from Paris, which seems like close. It's really not the same. I went to Paris like 2 times a year to go to the museum, you know. And the first time that I went by myself to this, you know, in the Latin Quarter, in those kind of theaters that made me dream, and I went to see David Lynch's Twin Peaks, Fire Walk with Me. I hadn't seen the series, so, you know, it was... But that was, I think it was a good starting point, because I didn't get much of it, because I didn't know a father raped her. Sorry for the spoiler. But I got out of the room, and the atmosphere had changed. And this is something like that I like to talk about, because it's not only about this mental place. It's about how it's also un art de vivre. I don't know you say that in English.
Who speaks French?
Un art de vivre.
A way of life.
Yeah. And yeah.
We're going to watch a clip from Water Lilies.
Okay.
So could we see the clip, please? So have you seen that in a while?
No. And it's really weird, because, I mean, the film is only in 35, it's 35 millimeters, and there's no digital version of the, I mean, there's DVD and stuff, but it can't be shown otherwise than in 35, and so I get very few occasion of actually seeing it. I can watch it on YouTube, but and it feels really weird seeing this, actually.
So the French title is Birth of Octopus.
Yeah.
What, I mean, you may not want to reflect on your work like this, but I was just curious about where that came from.
Well, it's kind of the first time that I had a title before I had anything else, actually. And then, in the process of making the film, and even when we were selected in Cannes with the film, we changed the title. It was then called The Octopuses. And then I decided to be brave and to actually, because everybody thinks that's a very complicated title. It is. It came from this idea that the first time you fall in love is also the rise of jealousy, and that it feels like there's this octopus in your belly, just with this black ink, you know, like desire, but also like the negative black juice, I don't know. There was also more aquatic, of course. But it was even mysterious to me. But then, in Proust, in La Recherche du Temps Perdu, I don't know how Marcel Proust, you know. He refers to jealousy as an octopus. And also in Violette Le Duc, with this very, very bright and not famous enough French writer who had this relationship with Simone de Beauvoir. She refers to I reread one of a book like 2 weeks ago, and there's she refers to jealousy and desire as an octopus, and so this is kind of a common imaginary and maybe a more feminine, female one. Mm-hmm.
And I love this scene as well too, because it's the first time that we can see you exploring the performative nature of gender as well too. I mean, was that very early on something you were fascinated by as a screenwriter? Yeah,
it seems like it. The thing is, it's always really striking, because I was not I was political already, but I wasn't deconstructed. So it was all kind of an intuition, you know? And I think that's why the movie is so radical. I wouldn't do it this way today. I wouldn't put the razor and say, like, okay, is that what you're going to tell your husband? But at the time, I was candid enough to actually not be scared of being so radical. That's why I think this is the most radical film I've done. And at the time, I didn't want to be disturbing, you know. So that's why it's always fun when people ask me, how do you do female gaze? I'm like, you know, it's not like you have to scratch your head like for hours thinking, how am I not going to objectify women? It's not that difficult. If I could do it at 26 years old, you know, just being, yeah, candid and just wanting to say what I felt and what I felt as a girl and you know, talk about that pressure and of performing. And the movie was all about that performance in a way, because it was about what's on the outside and what is underwater. And you see these women, you know, synchronized swimming is the only sport that is exclusively female. So it tells a lot.
Yeah.
And it's the only sport where you have to hide the fact that it has to be effortless, and you have to wear makeup and smile, and underneath it's such an athletic thing. When I went to a synchronized swimming competition, and I could see girls like getting up the water, being like, hey, and then like throwing up next to the pool. And when we were shooting, they couldn't do it much. It was like, okay, this is a 2-time thing, like max, because it's so athletic, and you have to hide the fact that it's athletic. So it's really a sport that tell a lot about what's the performance of being a woman is. Mm-hmm.
And it's also a film, I think I've read you talk about the fact that you were responding or reflecting on sort of American teen films as well too. Were these films you watched as a teenager?
Well, it's all, I mean, that's part of our culture, but in France we have a very strong culture of coming-of-age film, but it's mostly about teenagers dealing with with society, with their parents. You know, À nos amours by Piala is like Sandrine Bonner, you know, discovering life, but she has to put up with her father all the time. You know, that's basically. Whereas the American tradition is much more about teenage world as a world, as a bubble. And there's also a strong hierarchy in that. You know, it's not that they're free to do whatever they want. There's a strong archetype hierarchy about the, you know, the cheerleader, the chubby friend, and, you know, the awkward, childlike.
Marie.
Yeah. So it was about, I wanted to get rid of the adults. Also, at the time, also no male character. There's a guy, but he's not really, like, we don't know what he's going through. We're not sharing his experience. And so it was already pretty much settled like the rest.
Yeah. And this bubble, it reoccurs lots in your work. I mean, you sort of create these hermetically sealed, in some ways, universes. Mm-hmm. What is it about those spaces that you're interested in as a writer?
Well, I think it's mostly because it's female-driven, and if you want to share the intimacy of female character, you have to share their loneliness. Otherwise, you know, they have to put up with the performance. Cinema is really, I think, the only art where you can share somebody's loneliness in space and time. And there's no, I mean, literature you could say, but there's often a narrator or. That's why it's a bubble, because otherwise you're going to share. You're not going to share the experience as much. Yeah.
Can we watch a clip from Tomboy as well too?
Of course. I hate that film. No.
Such a beautiful film. You're again having this almost exclusively the world of young people, mm-hmm. this time with children. Mm-hmm. How conscious? I mean, your films also inspire this personal response. I've sort of seen it happen every time we've screened a film. They sort of touch deep places. What was the reaction when you showed this film to audiences? Did you get that kind of outpouring?
Yeah, a lot. I think it's. I mean, this is the film that has had. I think this is my film that is the most loved. That's why I'm making jokes about the fact that I don't have to love it that much. You know, it's living his life. And it's like it's like a hit, you know. I think Madonna is not going to say like a Virgin is my favorite song. She will have like this B-side thing, you know, trying to. I'm no Madonna, of course, but yeah, the thing that was super overwhelming with this film is that different generation, and even like women, you know, in their 80s would come and say, "This is my childhood," and that's that kind of intemporal feeling we were looking for. I wasn't, and it's the case with all the coming-of-age films that I made. I'm not trying to go with the documentary side of what's youth today, because, you know, when you're portraying youth, it's always a little bit about contemporary, about today, about documenting, because also you're working with non-actors, so they're going to give you this very present feeling. But it's also always kind of mythological. And especially with Tomboy, I really wanted to make it timeless. Water Lilies also, even like the costume design, which I do the costume design on my film. I mean, I do the shopping. Just they're, you know, they're not branded in. You don't know when it's happening. And with Tomboy, I really wanted that timeless feeling, so that everybody could connect. And so women who had their childhood in the 50s or in the 40s, they would tell me, I connect to this because I didn't have the right to put on pants. And then also there will be, and people who are more gender fluid today, they will connect to this in a different way. And I always try to make films where there's room for you. And that's getting more and more a process for me. Like Portrait of a Lady on Fire is really designed, like thinking about the fact that there should be room for your own love stories. And Tomboy was designed so that there should be room for your own childhood. And even regarding, this is also my film, maybe that's why it's my biggest success, even regarding box office, because the male audience really connected also to the film because, well, it's kind of a male character also, and they would tell me about the performance of being a boy. So that was really like the thing that I think created, the film that created such a strong community. Yeah.
And Zoe, who you cast as Mikel, is really, really wonderful. It's such a great performance, and I think she's gone on to do a lot more. And obviously, it was 2011, 2019. We've sort of moved on a lot about characters who are non-binary, transgender. Would you cast the film in the same way again if you were making the film now, do you think?
I think so. I think so, but I think the film kind of opened the way, and we were kind of avant-garde at the time. I think it's still the case with the last one, I guess. Yeah.
How did you find Zoe?
I found her in a very non-romantic way because we went into first agencies. I didn't want that at first. I didn't want with kids that were in agencies because, you know, they've been doing commercials and sometimes they can be, I don't know, like weirdly professional and
polished.
But there was this little girl that had no castings because she wasn't totally, you know, they're looking for very, very feminine child. Yeah. And so she hadn't done much because she was different. So we said, okay, we have to see her. And that was the first child that I met. And I said, okay, this is the end of casting.
Amazing.
But she had very long hair. We cut her hair. But so that was like the easiest casting. You know, it's always, but I find always kind of that mythology around casting a little bit disturbing. It's always like you have to, you know, we saw hundreds of children to find the right pearl, and I think this is not right. I think, you know, it's all about the work you're going to have to do after. It's not about meeting this perfect thing coming from the, you know, and it's mostly about the relationship you're going to build. And so I think, yeah, I would guess it the same because it was about also the meeting between this kid and I.
Right. And this, after Tomboy, did you know you wanted to make another film at that stage about young people and another coming-of-age film? Were they conceived as...
No.
They're talked about sometimes as a sort of trilogy, coming-of-age trilogy.
Yeah. Now, in a retrospective look, it was also to end the process that I decided it should be a trilogy. But maybe I'll do my Phantom Menace. But no, I never know what I'm going to do next when I make a film. And, you know, in between Water Lilies and Tomboy, I didn't even know if I wanted to make another film, another feature. Not because I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed it really much. But I was like, you know, you have to have the urge. You can't plan it, and that's also why I do my job as a screenwriter. It's also not to have to make movie to make a living, and I can earn, I can earn my life in different processes. Not being cynical, of course. I'm always picking the things I want to do really carefully because it's also a way of life. But not having to do a film as a director helps you actually take your time and think it through.
Yeah. So we're stepping out of chronology, but you've talked about writing, so it seems like a really great time to talk about writing for. Thank you. Thank you. So talk about how do you approach writing in the same way if you're writing for yourself to direct, or you're writing a script for someone else?
That's not at all the same, and it's super different regarding the directors you're working with. Like, for instance, when I work with André Téchiné, we're really working together at the table for hours designing the film, and then I take what we did and I wrote the whole script. But it's like everyday meeting and talking. For my life as a courgette, I don't know if it's courgette or zucchini here.
Courgette.
It's courgette. You people of taste.
Courgette.
I had the first version of the script and I had the book, and I just did it by not even. I met the director once, like, hi, and then you're gonna trust me with this, and then I did it, and then he made the film, and then basically we met after, I can say. So it's really different. But the same thing is that it's not that I'm never forgetting that I'm a director when I write for other directors. It's because I have ambition for them directing the film. I'm not like, oh, it's all about the story for me. So, like for instance, for André Téchiné, has been part of my personal mythology. I wanted to look at him as a young director. I looked at him as a young director, like if it would be his first time, and had ambition for him, like regarding the fact that he wanted to make a film about youth, and so you always have that in mind. And I'm also asking, it's about the crafting of the storytelling and the script, but it's also about like, what do you want to film? And he was like, I want to film. I really want to film nature of this part of France, and I was like, okay, so we have to find a way for you not to do like stock shot of nature. I mean, it has to be. So I'm also asking a lot of them about their directing ambitions, so that I can put it in the storytelling. Mm-hmm.
And so, but with Claude, with Courgette,
mm-hmm.
you didn't have that process with him?
Well, it's an animated film, so it's quite different. And I was also quite ignorant, actually, when I saw the film, like 4 years after writing it. Because it's such a long process of making. I was like, oh, they respect the script. Like, this is because life is not going to go to this. It's not going to be about the process of casting and editing. It's not at all the same. And I was scared, retrospectively, like, wow, you have such a strong responsibility writing a script for an animated film, because it's going to be like exactly.
It's the blueprint.
What you wrote.
Yeah.
But, sometimes it happens that you don't have to. I mean, it trusted me with this. And, of course, if the script hadn't pleased him, we would have been working a lot together. But it's sometimes magic happens,
I want to show the opening scene of this film, which is so beautiful. Courgette, please. It's so sad and beautiful, and I think one of the few films that you can watch with children which actually allows them to explore dark places. Yeah. Was that one of the things that you were interested in?
Yes, of course. It was, and it's you can't make a better choice than this scene, because it's the opening scene, and it was the scene that took me I didn't write the script before finding what was the opening of this film, because in the book, there's a book, he actually shoots his mother with a gun. So it's a totally different thing. And I really wanted to find a way to tell about the alcoholism and this mother, and the fact that, you have to make an opening sequence with a kid killing his mother who's an alcoholic. And how are you gonna, and you're thinking about a very young audience, because we were thinking it has to be, we were saying 8, I was thinking 6 years old. Mm. And and they came to me after Tomboy because, you know, they felt I was taking childhood characters seriously, so with their dark places, and childhood being a dark place. It's not that children have a dark side, it's just that childhood is like a complex, very also dark moments in life. And so I just thought about this sequence for like days and days, and then finding this idea of the beer can structure. And then when that was found, I just wrote the script like in like very few days, just like this was the starting point. And then once we have this, we can unroll it. But I'm not answering your question.
No, it's really interesting because I think it is something where I watched it with my son, and he really was moved by it, and it allowed him to explore things that are quite scary to explore.
Yeah, and it's the fact that you should always take your character seriously, and it's children, so you should take them seriously. But also, children as an audience, you should take them very, very seriously because, you know, I grew up in a time where there were all the Amblin productions, Spielberg and everything, the 80s. So we had a lot of children characters, but, you know, flesh and blood. Yeah. The Goonies, blah, 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 Macaulay Culkin, all these alcoholic childhood actor, you know. And but now, you know, they have like Panda doing kung fu, but 3D characters, not, you know, no children you can actually relate to. And of course, this is animated, but really wanted to make characters that were taking children seriously as characters and as an audience.
Yeah, and so moving back to work that you've written and directed for yourself, can we talk about girlhood? Because this feels like it's, I mean, it's obviously, we've talked about it being a coming of age film, but it's formally a huge change from your previous work. It's very precise, very structured. Was that a very conscious decision that you wanted to make something that was formally very different from the previous two films?
Yeah, and more wide and more, and with cinema scope for the first time. And I think the last, I didn't enjoy it that much actually. And it's, you know, it's really weird because there's this kind of feeling that, you know, if it's cinema scope, then it's cinema. And people are using CinemaScope like all the time. I don't understand why. This is so difficult, actually, because I wanted CinemaScope not to have this urban, Western, you know, like everybody says, this is always Western CinemaScope. It was really because I had 4 characters and I wanted to put them all in the same frame. But it's really, really difficult when you're looking at just one person with CinemaScope, because the close-up are going to be super close. And even you're kind of lost in I'm a 185 person, I think. But I enjoyed doing it, obviously. And yeah, it was quite a mental film with different episodes, also thinking about a TV series, and it's like 5 times 26 minutes. So it was, there was a lot of intellectual structure behind the film.
Yeah, and let's watch a clip and then we can talk about it. So the clip we're going to watch, 1 second, is, I'm sorry, this is where I go fangirl, because I think we all would love to see this on the big screen. It's such a glorious, glorious clip, but it's also one that I think really encapsulates what you're exploring around the gaze as well, too. So let's watch. Okay, gorgeous. It's amazing. That is just such a beautiful scene.
Yeah, I must say, I'm kind of moved.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it since a long time ago.
It's so gorgeous. I mean, I've watched it so many times, and every time I smile the entire time and feel very moved as well too. But what is really, really lovely about it is the way that you move the viewer through the scene. I mean, so many things are lovely about it. Let's be honest, it's gorgeous. But I love the way that you move us through the whole scene. So we start with Lady by herself dancing like nobody's watching, but we are watching her as well too. And then the other girls enter one by one, and then we see Vic, who is the viewer, and then she's participating, and then to go to the sound change at the end where we're, you know, with them in that room. It's just so incredible as a piece of cinema. Where did you conceive this? How did you conceive it? Was it a sort of standalone sequence that you wanted to include in the film?
Well, when it's about musical clips, you know, it should, and kudos to my grandmother who initiated me to musical, because it's you know, when they start to sing in a musical, it's always because it's a turning point in both things, in the story, and also it always has to do with the history of cinema. You know, when we talk about musicals, it's like, for instance, it was always about a technical change. Like, for instance, the first time that a movie was a speaking movie, it was a singing movie. So to talk about the fact that now movies are not silent anymore, you do a musical. When there was mono sound and then stereo sound, it's Fred Astaire film, and they made a song about the fact that it's become stereo, and Fred Astaire would sing, and then it would on stereo, and people would discover stereo. So it always has to do also musicals. That's why it's not a passé genre. It's not a genre of the old times. You know, that's why I don't like it when people. It's always paying tribute to the past of cinema. It's always about, if you should do a musical, if there's a new technical thing, like there should be a 3D musical film, you know, 2D. I mean, 3D is already old-fashioned, but I don't know, VR should try musical.
Will you do that next, please?
Maybe. If I ever do a musical, it's because there'll be a technical change. But, and so it's about, it's about all the, that's a turning point in Vic's life when she's joining the group, getting a voice. And the fact that the scene is so long, it's because it has to tell much. And it's also a scene about the film gaze and how you enter your own gaze and you belong. And that's pretty much really linked to Portrait of a Lady on Fire, because it's a shot, reverse shot, something that I rarely do. Portrait of a Lady on Fire is a movie also about shot, reverse shot, and how, you know, in Portrait of a Lady on Fire, the painter, she enters her own gaze, and then she goes into the shot of the theater and understands that she's been looked at. It's kind of the same here, in a very synthetic way. And this scene was, you know, it's one of the scenes you have in mind that makes you want to do the film, that makes you brave enough to do a film. The Rihanna song was, was out at the time, but really like for a few weeks, and I really wanted it to be at the center. In the end, they didn't want to give it to us, but we already shot the scene, so then we had to go through a super hard negotiation. But she because she never gives away a song, even if it's against for money. You know, she has ethics. But then they saw the clip and they said, okay, we're giving to you for, of course, an expensive amount of money, but that wasn't that expensive regarding the fact that it's Rihanna and such a hit. And this is a messy answer to...
It's beautiful, and it's also, I mean, the cinematography is incredible. Mm-hmm. For all 4 features, you've worked with a female DOP. Mm-hmm. This is Christelle.
Yeah, this is Christelle Fournier.
But can you talk about, is it important to you to have a female DOP?
Well, I don't know what it's like to work with a male DOP. It's the thing. It's some people, I mean, like, you have, like, very female-driven sets. And I'm like, yeah, but you should, that's, you know, I'm the boss, and I get to choose the atmosphere I want to work with. And so I don't know about the other sets, and you know, people are like, let's see, what is it changing? And I say, well, I know how good it is for me to work in this atmosphere and this collaborative way, but you know, you never ask male director how come they want to stay exclusively with men. They seem to enjoy each other's company very, very much. Also. It's true, and you know, and I'm like, well, I'm kind of, I think my sets are super hybrid, and I recommend it, but I don't know, you know, the actors, they're really better at answering. The actresses, they're really better at answering that question because they know a lot of sets. I only know mine. I think they're cool.
Well, it's an absolutely gorgeous scene, mm-hmm. And I think. Start talking about Portrait, and I know these guys will want to ask questions as well too, but I wanted to show that scene because it's beautiful, but it also is very, very linked to Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and particularly around your exploration of the gaze and female pleasure and female-only spaces. Was that a sort of jumping-off point for you in thinking about the things you'd enjoyed doing in girlhood and what you wanted to do next?
Yeah, it took me 5 years, so it was a long. Well, I did stuff meanwhile, but it took me some time to actually figure out what was worth doing. Why, it's a hard job, so you put a lot of energy into it, and it should be super meaningful. And this time, I really wanted to have a movie with grown-ups, grown women, and to talk about a love dialogue and really craft this lesbian love story that I feel we were missing.
Yeah, I mean, it is a lot of firsts for you. It's adults, it's professional actors, it is a love story. Can we talk about the love story first? Was that the starting point for you?
Definitely.
Yeah.
The starting point was devoting a film to a love story with two timelines, how it is the present of a love story, and also desire. Really wanted to film desire because, in the convention of cinema where people fall in love as love at first sight, you never film desire. You never film this rise of desire. And I think this is so cool, actually. And, when you remember what it was like to fall in love, you remember the choreography. You remember the steps that led you to that kiss. Of course, you remember the kiss, but those steps, they are unique. The kisses you will hopefully have a lot of if this works out. But this moment, that's what I really wanted also to film desire. And also to tell about the memory of a love story, the dynamic of a love story through time, the politics of love, what's a love dialogue with equality, what's left, to get out also of the mythology of tragic mutual feeling but tragic endings that is our tradition here in Occidental culture, and also pretty much how the male gaze has been representing lesbian stories, always with tension, conflict about are we sick and who's gonna die, and maybe, in straight love stories, they both die. So, like Romeo and Juliet, they both die. In lesbian love stories, so far, this one would die and the other one would have a good life, Not thinking at all about this body in the closet.
You film desire so beautifully, and a lot of that is, it feels also such a technical accomplishment, the pace and the sort of rhythm of the film builds that desire. How carefully, I'm going to be technical about desire now, but it works so well. But how carefully did you have to plot that out and structure that to create what you wanted to create there with desire?
Well, first it's a screenwriting job first, which seems weird because how do you write desire? It was about devoting taking it step by step and being really accurate also and honest with myself. When are we going to feel like she desires, and then it's mutual, and then when are they going to get surprised by the fact that, oh, I feel desire. So it's about being pretty honest, also not saying, yeah, we will, there'll be desire. No, okay, the first time the painter actually feels desire is when they're going to pose, she's going to pose for her, and she says, look at me, and she looks at her, and she's like, boom, okay, now. So once you're pretty accurate about this, then with the actress, you're like, okay, so now how are we going to do this? And it's just, being more and more, accurate and radical. And it's about the rhythm of the film, how each scene is a process through desire and love being explored and, felt. And it's also a process within the scene of finding this perfect rhythm. And I'm super accurate. For instance, it's about the steps, I would say to Noémie, you have to, it's a 6 step to her. It's not 8, it's not 7, it's 6. And all of my answers and my direction, I don't like this, the words I say to the actresses are a lot about this. This is how we're going to create melody and the rhythm. So it's going to be, I would do like, okay, you're going through her, and it's going to be like, and then I want you also to breathe in a certain rhythm. Like if you end the scene with an expiration or an inspiration, it's really not the same. For instance, for the last scene of the film, it's all on the shoulder of Adele. You know, I give her different steps. She has to go through different emotions, but it's a 3-minute long take, and like, no, I'm not sitting next to her. She's just basically on her shoulder. But she knows that in the end, she has to finish with an inspiration. And that's, you know, she knows a starting point and where she has to land. And it's being that accurate, being that concrete. No, concrete is not the word.
Precise.
Precise,
yeah.
Thank you. And then they can embody it as, you know, because they're not, because it's not too directive in a way, because, you know, it's a way to start the conversation at a very high level, because then they know they have these steps, and they can give, you know, their whole feelings to this. Well, by believing that images that haven't been shown or are new, and if they're new, then they belong to today. You know, it's like when people tell me, "Oh, you invented that story. Why didn't you adapt a book?" I'm like, that book hasn't been written. Yeah. Tell me about the book between, you know, lesbian love story in the 18th century, and we don't have Sarah Waters, you know, so we don't. Kudos to you. So it's about being very, I did a lot of research. I didn't want it to wink at the past from today, or to wink at today from the past. So the movie is not at all anachronistic. This character of the painter is totally accurate. I work with a sociologist of the art, who is a specialist of women painter of that period. She exists, she's French, there's one. And so not a historian of the art, sociologist. So she's, you know, we really wanted her to be, accurate, to embody something that was true. And it's about being obsessed with the fact that the film has to be contemporary, a contemporary form, but, you know, it doesn't have to, that's about the film, that's about the mise en scène, it's not about the storytelling or the fact that it's, I'm not fascinated by period film. I'm not like, one day I'll do my period film, period piece. I'm not, so it wasn't about that. To me, it was the same job with a higher level of decision. Like, for instance, I'm obsessed with costumes, but this time we were going to create them, you know. So and regarding the whole reconstitution, well, cinema is always a reconstitution, but this time it's official. So maybe we can play a little bit more, because, you know, I've been filming teenage girls or children in the rooms in Parisian suburbs, but the sets, they were built, the color I choose. But you're not telling, I mean, I'm telling it all the time, but so to me, and even this time, like the castle, for instance, where we shot, I didn't touch anything. The color of the wall was like that. It's untouched. We just put a little bit of accessories in there, but it's mostly wood and cotton, and we built the 3 pieces of furniture that are in it, like the chevalet, the thing where she paints, I don't know what you call it, or like the kitchen table. This is built, you know. So it's, to me, it was like the same job, but with a higher level of input and more, also a little bit more expensive, but not that much. Also, we kept it quite radical to be able to be radical.
So just while we go to the next question, I think that's an interesting point. I mean, it's a love story, but obviously there's so much packed in here for you to sort of think about. In particular, you open the film with the art class, which is really interesting. You were trying to sort of recover those histories that have been lost for female artists as well. was that part of the project for you?
Yes, that was part of the project, especially when I discovered that there were so many women artists at the time and that they were erased from art history, and discovered their body of work, discovered how it has been missing to art history, but also missing to our lives. Because, you know, that's what art is all about. It's about giving us our intimacies. And the fact that we are not given these images or these books or this music actually has an impact in our lives because it makes us more lonely. The fact that no abortion is represented makes it super dramatic it's an everyday thing. And the fact that it's not represented, the fact that there's no museum in the world, what is a canvas named like the abortion lady, actually has a lot of impact on the way we live, on our culture. So that's why we need those images. Yeah. That's why it feels right to actually put them out there. And also very exciting because, you know, it's not about making it even. It's about how they can be despised of feminist lecture, or feminist analysis on film, or even the fact that, you know, I'm saying I'm making a feminist film. Like it could be. People are saying to me, "Wow, it's a lesbian love story. It's not restrained like this label." Well, it's not a label. It's an imaginary. You feel it's too small. If you think it's small, I think it's wide. I think it's super wide. I think it's a political proposal. It's an imaginary that is dangerous. That is emotional and so it's not a small label. It's a proposal on so many layers, and it's creation, it's invention. You know, it's stepping out of the convention. So it's not small. It's super big actually, and because also it's not been explored that much because we weren't given the opportunity. It's also really, really, I think, good for cinema. Because it's bringing new emotions. It's good for you. It's good for us. You know, it's not the same old.
I want to thank you because we're talking about the abortion scene too. That's just the most incredibly intelligent scene. That the baby is right next to her is just so beautiful. It acknowledges everything. That it's such a great political scene as well too.
Yeah, and it's emblematic of how we are activists for cinema because when you're about to shoot a scene that hasn't been shot much, the job is pretty much done. I mean, you're like, oh, this is going to be a good scene, but it's not like that. It's not because you're going to fill in the blank that you're not going to have to invent an image. So, you know, I had the abortion scene written for a long time, and I felt, no, it's not enough. It's not enough. It doesn't belong enough to this film, because there's pressure on you, you know, when you're like, okay, an abortion scene, maybe I will. And then I really worked a lot to find that image of the baby. And when there was the image of the baby, I said, okay, so this is new. This is new to a new thing, but it should belong to the film. It should be new. It should be strange. It should be, and that's when you say, okay, I'm ready to do this. Well, the opening of the film, I wanted it to set it as a flashback so that we could play on both these timelines, and also wanted to put by being playful, put the painter in the position of the model. You know, sometimes it's also about having fun with your own characters and being put her in that position where she won't be start the film with the power dynamic that is not what you expect. You know, the teacher being the model. And then I wanted that scene, that action scene in the beginning, and also to depart from the convention of the genre, because, you know, she's gonna jump in the water. She's jumping in the water, so she's not that classical chilly woman waiting for, I don't know, she's not waiting. And then also the film jumps in the water because the camera then goes in the water. So it's this pact, the beginning of films are mostly about us, about like, this is the pact, go with us, So that's the answer to your first question. And then, yes, of course, the movie is about love and friendship, even friendship within the love story. and sorority and solidarity among women. And the mother is also a character that I wanted in that way. You know, I wanted a 50-year-old woman. I wanted her to be young, to have project, to be, you know, full of desire. She wants to go to Milan. She wants to have fun, you know. Not the bitter old, grumpy women full of resentment. You know, she knows that her daughter is going to have the same crappy life. She's trying to make it kind of better, you know, escape this island where she was bored for 30 years. So, and I wanted her also to have a very horizontal relationship. Like when she talks to the painter, she's not, you know, she's not bullshitting anyone, actually. She's like pretty honest. She embodies domination and, you know, the repetition of violence, but she's oppressed, and, you know, she's a widow, and she just wants to get out of here. So and we did that also with the servant, with the maid character, who is not at all the maid character. Like you, for instance, you never see her with a mother, and, you know, you would expect her to be there with a tray doing like clink clink and listening to the door, and she's not even the servant character, even regarding the theater at the time. You know, the maid character would be the accomplice, or the you know, she would have an opinion on this love story. We don't even know if she knows. She's there when she has her own project, her own goal as a character. So that's the kind of balance, not balance. I don't know if it's balanced or unbalanced, but yeah, also to talk about sorority and to show the dynamic of solidarity among women, which is also not often the case. You know, we're pretty much raised to please the man and also to be in rivalry. And fiction, of course, is a lot of that propaganda to, you know, but it's not true to life at all, I think. I think it's about being not self-indulgent at all, being like questioning your ideas and rewriting. I think it's all about rewriting. And I'm not really good at that.
I think the question process of are you scared to go deep, and does that mean you just push yourself further as an artist? Is a really interesting one.
It's always the part, and I'm not really good at saying, because to me writing is the moment where I'm the most secretive. It's not that I don't want to share my things. It's not that. It's just that nobody reads. I'm not talking to anyone about my writing while I'm writing. People sometimes, even my closest friend, don't know that I'm writing. Nobody's reading it except my producer when I'm at my third draft. She knows about the process. She knows about the story, for instance, but. And then she reads it. She's super strong and bright, as you can see, because the films are good. I mean, you like them, so. And then she's part of the process, obviously. But it's very. I'm in my cave. I'm a cave woman at that moment, and it's really about this back and forth between global philosophy and local solution. You have to have a radical philosophy, I think, that's going to be your compass for the whole writing, and be really, really like finding very, very strong radical solutions for each scene. And I think you should, and I try to write in chronologically, for instance, which means that if I'm not happy with a scene, I mean, it's a bit masochistic. Is that a word?
Yeah, masochistic.
Masochistic. Like, I'm not going to go further. Like, I have to find... And if I'm not happy, if I don't have, like, for instance, the abortion scene, as I told you, like, I'm missing something, and, like, I'm going to think about this. Like, for maybe it will be 3 days, maybe it will be 3 weeks. Like, there has to be that next step. And it relies a lot about excitement. I think you should, if you're not feeling excited, like super excited, because in the process, you can, you know, cinema also is a lot about other things. It's a lot about, it's not like you're not writing and then it's a book, and it's, you have to put up with what the team, the meteorology, the money, a lot of money. So this, if you want your ideas to stand strong, they have to be super strong, and you have to be super excited about them. So it's also a gut thing. It's also like, if I'm not, and from film to film, like this film, I only shot scenes because that I really wanted to shoot, and that also create this weird rhythm, because there's no useful scene. There's no scene I was like, I have to do this because otherwise people won't understand, or otherwise they will be missing a step. Like, you have to have a great desire for everything you're going to do, and if you don't have that, then you're not in trouble. But I mean, I need this. I need to be, yeah, excited. And I think it's not something they tell you much in writing courses and in film school. Like, and try to tell that each time. I say, like, you have to be very, 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 very excited. You have to trust that.
Céline, can I just ask, because this is also, we've referred to it here, it's a very strongly political piece of filmmaking as well, too. And it was really interesting when I was watching clips to speak to you today and thinking about today. Many times I witnessed you or Adele getting sort of microaggressions from interviewers. We've all responded to the film, audiences are really responding to the film, but are you also finding resistance to the film?
Yes, of course. Because, you know, it's a backlash. And because you have to have the culture. I mean, cinema is such a strong culture. It has such an impact. I can see that, you know, sometimes when you're old, white and male, for instance, you don't have the culture to read the image. Like, for instance, you tell me, the film is lacking sex. I'm like, oh, I tried to make this very epidemic, erotic film. And people are like, it's not a sexy film, you know, about desire and stuff. And there's no sex scene, you know, it's boring. Like, you've not been, and they say, you're not brave enough. You're afraid. Like, I'm afraid. I'm afraid. I'm afraid. I'm afraid of doing a sex scene. And I'm like, well, there's a sex scene in the film. Maybe you haven't seen it because, you know, if it's not about penis, or if it's not about these gays, you're lost. You're like, where is the sex scene? Well, actually, there's an it's a true penetration. It's not simulated, because, you know, it's that sex scenes are always simulated in films, you know. I wanted to do a sex scene that wasn't simulated, so it's a true finger, it's a true armpit, it's a true va-et-vient, and it's new, and it's about, so it's exciting. And also, it talks about sex in a different way. Like, it's light-hearted. The scene is light. It's full of humor, which I think sex, you know, really should be fun. And it's inventive, and I think sex should be inventive. And it's about you being kind of lost in this image. Like, oh, what is this? Oh, and it should also be like that, you know. And the fact that, yeah, we're bringing a new culture to the screen, and the fact that some people don't have, they can't read the image, we shouldn't feel, I'm not feeling threatened by this, but, you know, sometimes it's hard because you're like, you feel you're not understood, and mostly I think it's sad. And it's especially about sex and love stories, it tells a lot about people, so they're giving us some news about them. Music in this film is, well, there's no music. There's like 2 moments. And Vivaldi is cheaper than Rihanna, I must say. And that was the challenge from the scratch. I wanted to make this film without music, which seemed like a challenge because, you know, love stories, they all have soundtracks. You know, we could play the game. I'm like, Dirty Dancing, it'll be Time of My Life. I'm like, Titanic, it'll be My Heart Will Go On. And even the love stories in our lives, they have their soundtrack. But it wasn't about the love story, it was about the reconstitution and the fact that the film also talks about art in our life. Our love is an education to art, and our art consoles us from our loves. So I wanted to put you in the same position as these characters, and they are lacking beauty. They are today we are living this cool, very cool democratic moment where we can listen to music if we want and anytime we want. I wanted, to put you in that same frustration, so that when music occurs, it's like overwhelming, and you definitely connect to the power of music in life and also in cinema. So yeah. Well, at first we did essays because I didn't know if I wanted to shoot 35mm or digital, especially regarding the fact that we're going to shoot the paintings and the colors and the material. We're like, 35 will be maybe really great for this. But I chose digital. We chose digital because of the skin, we wanted to show desire and love, and it was more dynamic, and it definitely belonged to the present. And regarding the rush of blood and regarding the characters, it felt better. So we went for digital. Then we began the shooting by doing all the exteriors. So we went to Brittany. And of course I wanted Brittany, and it was October. It was a year ago. Was the first day of shooting, actually. Wow. And it was super sunny and super warm, and not at all the grey, romantic Emily Bronte that I wanted. And it's all about welcoming the news as a good news. That's cinema also. Like, okay, it's gonna rain. It's cool, and it's gonna be sunny. It's cool. And we say, okay, now we did all the exteriors. So we did all the beach scenes, and we got back to the Parisian suburbs where we were shooting the castle, and thinking, okay, we have to compose now with that light. And when you're shooting in a castle, it's which is kind of preserved and kind of also falling apart, you can't put any light in the rooms, so it had to be shot from the exterior. So we put a lot of money and time, which is kind of the same, especially in cinema, into crafting this light. And we weren't thinking about contrast, because we were kind of, as we had done all the exteriors, we wanted to, Claire Maton was really, the DP was really trying to bring back the light from Brittany and she was always saying that we mustn't forget about this. And I bought a lighter there in Brittany, where I said, I love Quiberon, which is, and I'm a big smoker. And so each time there would be a pause, and I was waiting for the light a lot, obviously. So I was like, never forget about Quiberon. So that's how we kept reminding that we would have to bring that light back. But it was different. I mean, we had this, and then also we had the nights, and regarding all the candlelight shit, which is like, you can make a reading of period pieces just by looking at the choices that were made regarding the candlelight. Are they in the frame? Are they in the arm of somebody? Are they on a big chandelier? Or are they, and mostly, are they the actual source of lighting or not? So that was a big challenge. And then there was the challenge of shooting the painting and the colors, and we hadn't had any reference regarding, because every frame is a painting, but we didn't have any painting reference regarding the lighting of the film. We wanted it to be beautiful, so we asked ourselves the question of the painters, but we definitely went with the answers of cinema. And that's a good thing about cinema, is that you get to ask yourself the question of other arts, so you get to ask yourself the question of the musician, you have to ask the question of the writer, but all your answers are cinema.
The painter you worked with as well, too. Should we name check her, because her work is incredible? Yeah,
her name is Hélène Delmer. She's a 32 artist living in Lille. She had never heard of cinema, and she goes to cinema. She didn't care. She never heard of me, but that's for sure. I was like this crazy woman knocking at her door, like, hello. And I found her on Instagram. Because you know what, Instagram is the thing that now, for instance, oil portrait painting like this, that is not fashionable, that is not the thing that's going to be sold in galleries or be at Frieze or whatever, they get their audience also from Instagram. So there's like this new rise of portrait oil and other style that can...
On Instagram?
Yeah, on Instagram, because they get to live there.
Céline, I wish we had more time because I could listen to you speak all day. Thank you so much for these gorgeous films. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.